Hello and welcome to Coffee with Dr. Carla. I'm Dr. Carla and this is Emily, and we are so glad that you are here. Today, our goal is to talk about, a variety of different mental health issues and hopefully uh, put an end to some of the stigma that's surrounding them. So, you and I actually know one another, and I know that you are going to school to become a nurse.
Yes.
And you're at the end here. You're down to the wire. But in the meantime, you are working within a mental health facility as a mental health assistant, and so I just wanted to talk a little bit about today, like what it's like to be in that position where you are doing the work, helping others, and yet you have your own work that you have to do.
Yeah, it is honestly crazy. I won't I won't lie about that. Nursing school in itself is a very difficult path to go down. I definitely have struggled, but I have had such a great support system, and within that time I have really fell in love with mental health and working within the mental health field. So I work at a psychiatric hospital, and it has been very eye opening. I love working with teenagers, kids, stuff like that. Nursing school in general is just terrifying. Um, but I have been in therapy. I've actually been with you in therapy,
Yep.
and it has really helped me like navigate. So I actually have this semester off, and I'm taking that for myself for my own mental health. But I will be finishing next semester.
Which
Yes,
is exciting.
I'm ready to be done. That's for sure.
For sure, right. So, okay, so you have your own challenges and you're helping others with their challenges. What strengths do you bring to that position? Like what makes you uniquely qualified to be in the position you're in?
Yeah, so I think for myself, I've always struggled with mental health, whether it be just at home. I actually was involved in a sexual assault a while ago, and you know that.
Yeah.
And I think, like, within my own personal life, I've really dealt with a lot of these things that I am now seeing in the mental health field, right? So I think that definitely
Yeah.
brings a big strength, where they don't feel alone. Because I think a lot of people feel alone within mental health. Like, it's still a big stigma to talk about.
Right, like no one else is going through this.
Exactly. Like,
Okay.
and especially with teenagers too, they're like, no one understands this. I've been there. I was there only a couple years ago, right? And it's just being there for them and being like, hey, by the way, you're not alone. Like, you're first of all, you're getting help, which is wonderful. That's a whole big thing in itself.
Right.
Um, but also just like having them, giving them an ear to listen to, right? Like they feel like they're not heard. Teenagers have this huge thing of like, no one's listening, no one cares, they treat me like an adult but a kid at the same time,
Right.
all of the above, right? And I think that with me, every time they see me come in, they're like, Miss Emily, I gotta tell you this. Like, whoa, crazy. I actually had a patient the other day that was like, Miss Emily, my abuser just got arrested and is going to jail. And she celebrated that with me.
Yeah.
I know. And I was like, that is amazing. That's huge steps. And just like letting them know that, hey, you have someone that will listen to you. Like, I'll give you a hug once in a while, like, I'm just there for you.
Right.
So I think that's a big strength for sure.
I mean, those are awesome. But I'm assuming the work also comes with a few areas where you feel like you have some weaknesses too.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And that's so I mostly like working with teen girls. I think I do struggle with working with adults, actually. I think that sometimes they're older, they're older, so why are they going to listen to a 23-year-old giving them
Mm-hmm.
advice, right? Like, if I go to an adult unit, it could be 40s, 50s plus,
Sure.
and they're like, what is this 23-year-old telling me what to do?
What does she know about life? Right. Yeah.
Exactly. So, definitely just trying to relate to the different age groups is a huge struggle for sure. And like I said, I was involved in my own sexual assault and my own mental health, so it is very mentally exhausting. There are some days at work that I get home and I'm like, no one talk to me. I'm gonna decompress by myself. Like, after you hear the stories again and again and again, it does get mentally exhausting. And honestly, like, that's why I always, anytime any coworker talks to me, I'm like, hey, go to therapy. Like,
Right.
because like, you can only do so much. Like, I love talking with my coworkers about things. That's how we de-stress. But therapy really is the one thing that helps me within seeing all those stressful and awful situations that kids and, that everyone's going through.
Right. Allows you to get deeper.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So you said you go home and you're like, I need my time to decompress. Is there something that you do during that alone time that is more helpful than other things, perhaps?
Um, so the biggest thing for me is I actually really like writing.
Okay.
So I have my own like sketchbook and I do draw a little bit as well. Um, Biggest thing for me actually is going home and playing with my bunny.
Fuzzy, fuzzy, warm things. Yeah, can hardly go wrong with that. Yeah.
Really, it
Yeah.
is like she is my emotional support animal. Like, as much as I don't want to, but no, animals are a big, big distressor. Like, I could just hold her for 5 minutes and be like, whew, okay,
Yeah.
you know?
And especially if they're going to snuggle with you, it makes it even better.
Exactly. And she's a big snuggler.
Awesome. So I guess as we kind of, move along here, we talked about your strengths, some of the weaknesses maybe that are coming up, but then, if we flip that on its head, what opportunities are you finding as you work on your own stuff and help others work on their stuff?
I think it's like a big eye opener. Like, sometimes be giving my patient advice and I'm like, Emily, you could use that advice in your own life.
Let me write that down. I'm going to text that to myself. Maybe I'll listen to
Maybe
myself,
I'll
right? Yeah.
listen,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like a big thing. Like, I'll be sitting there and I'm like, would you ever say this? Like, especially when they're really not, they just don't love themselves, right? Like, that's something that I do struggle with a lot personally, is like body image and like just loving myself for who I am,
Right.
even with my mental health and my issues. Like, it's okay to love myself. And when I tell them, like, listen, would you ever be this mean to your best friend? Or
Yeah.
to
Or
even
even
to your younger self?
or to your enemy. Would you be this mean
Yeah.
to your enemy? Right. Yeah.
And all of the time they're like, no, absolutely not. And I'm like, then why would you do it to yourself? And then you sit there and you're like, yeah, I mean, I could definitely use my own advice. Like, like, it's hard to give advice and also take the advice you're giving.
Right. But in that situation, those opportunities do come up. So an eye opener for sure.
Yes.
That's
Oh,
cool.
absolutely. And I mean, I talk to Katrina about it, my therapist about it all the time. I'm like, Katrina, she's like, come on, Emily. I'm
Yeah.
like, I know. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that's like a big one. And also just like hearing the experiences and putting that into your own life, right? Like, seeing what these kids go through day to day, or like becoming like a lockout, a DCFS lockout, and I'm like, I'm ready to take all of these kids home. I am. Like, it's so, like, I just, the more that I work in the mental health field, even though of course there are awful days, right? The more that I fall in love with it, like, I know it's what I want to do for the rest of my life. And like, my coworkers and even management, like, every time I come on, they're like, "Oh my gosh, thank you for coming in, Emily. Like, we really appreciate." Because again, like, the mental health field in itself is very short-staffed, understaffed. Like, we're overworked, and you get to see people that are like that become hardened by it.
Well, and burnout is great as well.
Yeah, yeah, and they become hardened, and they don't necessarily care about the people that they're caring for. because they're so burnt out. And that's something that I actively try not to do, for
Yeah,
sure.
and that brings me to the last piece here about threats. So like,
Yeah.
so I mean, clearly, ending up in a position where you become numb to somebody's situation or story, or there's burnout. I mean, and that's an industry thing. I think that's more a systemic thing. But personally, do you find yourself in positions where you ever feel threatened, and not necessarily physically threatened, but like triggered because of the things that you're working on?
A
And what
hundred
is that like,
percent.
and how do you, because if you're sitting with somebody and they say or do something, and all of a sudden you're triggered, now you've got to make a decision about how you're going to deal with that situation, and can you always get a way to tend to yourself, right? So
Oh my
I
gosh,
wonder what
yes.
that looks like if you get triggered, and then how you handle that, perhaps.
Yeah, no, I mean, more recently, actually, I was on a one-to-one with a patient, which
Hmm.
means, she's a little more active. She was very actively suicidal. Okay. And like, for myself personally, I actually attempted suicide in March of 2021, earlier this year,
Right.
actually. And I'm the one who actually unwrapped the thing around her neck, and like, it was very triggering, very emotional, and I was like in awe in that moment. Like, I was like, no one else. She basically, long story short, right? She had tried to do it in the shower. She wrapped something in her neck and then like was pushing the shower button until she couldn't anymore.
Okay.
The person that was on the one-to-one wasn't checking on her.
Oh
She had
no.
her foot in the door, was listening for the shower. Oh, it's going. It's fine. Two people passed by her without noticing this thing on her. So when I went up to her, I saw her and I like did it, and I was like, there's the burnout, right? The other two are like, she's just being manipulative. She won't get out of the shower, like freaking out, like, and I'm like, y'all gotta realize that this is a human being. She just lost almost everything. And she's actively, like, it's not being manipulative, right? So for me, after that situation, I took a second to myself and I'm like,
At least.
yeah, at
Yeah.
least,
Because I'm
right?
even just hearing the story, secondhand, and I can feel it all in my body. Like, I feel
Right?
like I need to do a little breathing exercise right now,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah.
Like, that's literally like, I had so much adrenaline going that it got me through the rest of the shift. But I actually went to management and I was like, hey, this all happened and I'm really upset because, like, again, I know that we're overworked, we're understaffed, we're burned out, but like, this is a human being.
Right. This is a life that we just
Right.
potentially could have lost. Right.
Exactly.
Right.
And
Right.
like, you have people that are like, she's just being manipulative, take the things away from, and I'm like, okay, but like, you guys do realize what just happened here, right? Like, no one else like was stopping. Like, I like literally after the shift just like sat down in my car and cried,
Yeah.
And like, for my own personal self, I was like, that was me literally a couple months ago. And like, if I ever thought that anyone was saying that about me, like nurses or staff, I would have been so upset,
Sure. Re-traumatized.
re traumatized, because now you have people thinking that you're faking it for attention.
Right.
And I'm like, that is not what we do here, you know? So I think for me, like, I definitely, not in that situation, I was able to get out right away, right? Like, I had to finish the one-to-one, I had to finish my shift. But after that, I definitely like sat and de-stressed. Like, I went to my support people and I was like, hey, this really traumatizing thing happened. Like, can you just sit and listen to me for a couple minutes? And they're like, of course we can. Like, we're here, And like, having those support people really, really helped me throughout the mental health field. And even like when I went to therapy, Katrina was like, hey, like, are you good? Let's process this. And I'm like,
Yeah.
thank you. Like, and I was able to sit and process. But in other situations where I feel threatened, like, this girl punched me in the face the other day, actually, which is, again,
There's
very
a
common.
physical threat, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
right. So, like, in that sense, I called the code green, a bunch of people came. I was holding her, and when they came, I was like, someone take her, I'm gonna leave. I'm like, I got to get off this unit for a couple minutes. And they're like, yes, go, go, go. So I went outside and I just sat there for a little bit and just like did my deep breathing, do the
Yeah.
5 things you hear,
Right.
whatever. And that really did help. Like, and then, I do have good coworkers because then, like, 10 minutes later, I get a call. Hey, where you at? We're just going to come check on you. 5 people came out and were like, hey, you good? Trying to make me laugh, just to like help with
Yeah.
the situation. And they're like, hey, if you need to go to another unit, like, let us know. I was working the next day. They're like, you said you wanted to be on this unit, but like, because you got hit, do you want to go somewhere else? So they put steps in place for you as well. Like, it's very like a supportive system because, like everyone's mental health can be really, really sticky situations.
For sure. For sure. Well, I really appreciate you, joining me today and being so transparent about so many different pieces.
Yeah, of course.
I am sure that there will be plenty of people who are listening who are going to be able to go, okay, okay, I got that. That's me. Yeah, I recognize that as well.
Yeah.
Um, remember you can change your thoughts and discover your potential and transform your life by focusing on your overall well being. So until next time, continue working on being the best you possible. Bye.